Okay, so let's unpack this. We're diving deep into how easily history and, well, human nature prefer a compelling story over maybe a more mundane fact.
Right.
Think about the flashpoint of World War One, that famous story of Gavrilo Princip.
Oh, yeah, the sandwich story.
Exactly. He fails the first assassination attempt on Archduke Franz Ferdinand, gets discouraged, decides to grab a sandwich, and then, like, fate itself
The
intervenes.
Archduke's driver takes a wrong turn, supposedly, and pulls up
Yeah.
right where Princip is eating, gives him a second chance, bing, bang, boom, World War One.
It's almost too perfect, right? A global war hinging on a sandwich break and just an incredible coincidence.
It is historical gold. I mean, it's dramatic, it's simple, it makes sense in a narrative way. But the problem,
Yeah.
our sources, they point to Mike Dash, who really looked into this,
Mm-hmm.
and he found basically no evidence for it before, like a 2003 BBC documentary.
Seriously.
2003.
Wow. Yeah, and apparently the writer and director of that film, they couldn't even remember where they heard it. So well, it looks like it might be completely made up. Wow. A completely fake sandwich narrative sparked a World War story, and, we all kind of bought it.
Hmm.
So our mission today is really to look at that exact thing. How easily our minds latch onto these historical myths or persistent curses, things that seem like impossible coincidences.
Yeah, we're digging into sources on historical debunking, the math of chance, the psychology behind skepticism, trying to see where logic kind of breaks down when you're faced with a really, really good story.
It seems like skepticism is often the first casualty when there's just too much information or the story's just too magnetic.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start with some historical blockbusters. The ones built more on theater than actual fact. First up, Mussolini's March on Rome, October 28, 1922.
Yes, the iconic image. Illudius leading his black shirts, this glorious, decisive seizure of power. It's foundational.
It is the image, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
But the source material gives us a reality check. Mussolini, he wasn't even in Rome.
Get out! Where was he?
He was in Milan the whole time, just waiting by the phone, hedging his bets, actually hoping for like a political compromise, or maybe an invitation from the king to take power constitutionally.
So, not exactly leading a revolutionary charge, more like, well, one source hilariously said he was cowering in his jackboots.
Yeah, basically. While others were doing the actual, marching and maneuvering in Rome.
Doesn't this just prove that sometimes the staging, the myth of the event, is way more powerful politically than what actually happened?
Oh, absolutely. The reality was messy, political, but the narrative needed him to be this decisive, fearless leader. That myth, the physical march, let him retroactively claim that kind of aggressive, legitimate power.
We see that same need for theatrical scale and military propaganda too, right? Thinking about the Mongols and Genghis Khan, specifically the story about Nishapur.
Right after his son-in-law Tokchar was killed there. The story, the really horrifying one,
Yeah.
is that Genghis Khan ordered every single person in the city. And the number they throw around is 1,748,000 people.
1.7 million.
Yeah, 1.748 million. All supposedly beheaded in 1 hour as revenge.
In an hour.
And yeah,
I mean, the moment you hear that number, your brain just flags it, right? It's mathematically impossible.
completely. It works out to something like 480 executions per second. It's pure theater of terror. It's not history.
Yep.
Historians, mathematicians, they just look at that number and say, nope.
It's not about accuracy. It's about projecting absolute terror.
Exactly. The success of the narrative is measured in fear, not verifiable facts.
Okay, so the takeaway here seems pretty clear. Big political and military moments often rely heavily on, well, impossible theater, and this need for a neat, dramatic story. It leads us right from shaky history into the world of coincidence and curses.
Yeah, curses are compelling, aren't they? Because they give random tragedy a kind of structure, a narrative, like there's a reason behind it all.
Like Tutankhamun's tomb, the big one.
The classic. Howard Carter finds it in 1922, funded by Lord Carnarvon. And almost immediately you get these rumors about a spooky inscription.
Death comes on wings to he who enters the tomb of a pharaoh. Chilling.
Whether it was real or just, amazing historical PR, who knows? But then weird stuff started happening.
Yeah.
Lord Carnarvon died not long after. That just cemented the idea of this ancient vengeful power.
And then you've got the American version, maybe. Dab, Billy Goat Curse.
Yes. Wrigley Field, 1945. William Billy Goat Sionis and his actual goat Murphy get kicked out of the World Series.
Because of the goat.
Because of the goat's smell, apparently. So Ciana supposedly curses the Cubs, saying they'll never win a World Series again.
They didn't. For 71 years, every failure just reinforced the story.
Exactly. It looks like destiny, but it's often just selective memory, focusing on the bad luck.
Which brings us to maybe the most striking pattern, the U.S. presidential deaths. Tecumseh's curse, they sometimes call it.
It is striking. Every president elected or re-elected in a year ending in 0.
From 1840, William Henry Harrison.
Right, through 1860, 1880, 1900, 1920, 1940, up to John F. Kennedy in 1960. Every single one died in office, 7 straight decades.
That's genuinely eerie. 7 presidents.
And the claim is it only broke with Reagan, elected in 1980, who survived an assassination attempt.
Okay, that is a powerful pattern. But this is where selective facts really muddy the waters, isn't it? Like those Lincoln-Kennedy coincidence lists.
Oh, those lists are the perfect example of selection bias. Take the claim both were assassinated by Southerners.
Okay.
Well, John Wilkes Booth. He was born in Maryland, which was a slave state, yes, but a border state. And apparently he thought of himself as a Northerner who understood the South.
Mm-hmm.
So calling him purely Southern. It's a bit of a stretch, but it makes the parallel cleaner.
Right. It fits the narrative better. Or what about the fact that both Booth and Oswald were killed before their trials?
Technically true, but the context is totally different. Booth was on the run for almost 2 weeks. Oswald was shot in police custody 2 days later.
Very different circumstances.
Vastly different.
Yeah.
But the list just highlights the matching point, killed before trial, and ignores all the messy details that don't fit.
Like the fact both wives lost children while in the White House?
Yeah, another technically true point. But again, context matters. Lincoln had 4 sons. Infant mortality in the 19th century was tragically common. It ignores the statistical baseline.
Yeah.
The mind just grabs the hits and ignores all the misses.
And that selective focus, it leads us straight into the math of miracles, doesn't it? Littlewood's Law.
Exactly. Littlewood's Law of Miracles. It basically says a miracle defined as like a super significant 1 in a million event should actually happen to the average person about once a month.
Once a month. That feels wrong. That goes against my gut feeling completely.
I know, it sounds totally impossible. Until you factor in just how much stuff happens to you every day.
Yeah.
Like maybe 30,000 distinct events or observations.
Okay.
So over a month, that's nearly 1 million opportunities, 1 million chances for a 1 in a million event to occur.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, it's not miraculous. It's
statistically inevitable.
pretty much, yeah.
So the trick isn't that the weird thing didn't happen. It's that we only label it as special after it happens. And we forget about the, 999,999 other totally boring things that happened that month.
That's the cognitive trap right there.
Yeah.
That fuels the belief in curses and sees patterns in pure coincidence.
And knowing this statistical inevitability, it gives us a basis for skepticism when we look at things like paranormal claims or stuff like firewalking.
Firewalking is a perfect example. It looks incredible, right? Mind over matter.
Yeah.
You must need some special mental state to not get horribly burned.
Yeah, that's the whole appeal.
But according to the physics, laid out by people like David Willey, who's a physicist and a firewalker, it's just basic physics. No magic required.
Okay, how?
2 main things. 1, short contact time. You got to walk briskly, don't linger.
Right.
And 2, the coals themselves have low thermal capacity and conductivity. They're hot, yes, but they don't hold a lot of heat energy compared to their volume, and they don't transfer it efficiently to your foot in that brief contact.
Huh. So physics, not psychic powers.
Pretty much. And sometimes you need actual experiments to really nail down skepticism, like with dowsing.
Dowsing. Finding water with a stick.
Yeah, or minerals, or whatever.
Yeah.
Using a divining rod. The Munich experiments were the biggest tests ever done on this. Super controlled, well-designed.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. They were run by people who believed in dowsing. They thought it worked, maybe through Earth rays or some kind of radiation.
So proponents ran the tests, and what did they find?
Initially, they actually concluded they had found real dowsing ability in a few people. Their own report said it worked.
Wow, okay.
But then a skeptic, J.T. Enright, reanalyzed their data rigorously, looked at all of it, and found that the positive results were basically statistical artifacts from cherry-picking the data. When you looked at the whole picture, the results were absolutely no better than chance.
So the experiment, designed by believers, ended up proving.
Ended up being a decisive failure to prove any real skill.
Which is fascinating, right? That the believer's own analysis initially got it wrong. Shows how strong wishful thinking can be.
Definitely. And if even controlled science can get misinterpreted like that, what happens when, like, suggestion hits a huge group of people under stress? Now you're talking collective delusion, mass hysteria.
Like that Pokemon incident in Japan back in '97.
Textbook case. Over 12,000 kids reported symptoms, nausea, dizziness, feeling sick after watching one specific episode.
And the first thought was flashing lights, right? Photosensitive epilepsy.
Yeah, but the numbers were just way too high for that. Epilepsy, like, that is rare, maybe 1 in 5,000. This was affecting, like, 7% of viewers in some areas.
It's not epilepsy, then.
Unlikely to be the main driver.
Oh.
Sources suggest it was more like epidemic hysteria. You had this backdrop of really high stress among Japanese kids, especially around entrance exams.
Right. Intense pressure.
Exactly. So the environment was kind of primed for this mass psychosomatic reaction. The flashing lights might have been a trigger, but the scale points to something more psychological.
That susceptibility to suggestion. That's the heart of the Nostradamus effect, too, isn't it? Making vague prophecies fit specific events after the fact.
Precisely. The prophecy is like a verbal ink blot, as one source puts it. You see what you want to see.
Didn't they test this?
Yeah, researchers made up some random, poetic-sounding quatrains, attributed them to a fake prophet called Antinous, and asked people to match them to historical events. People had no trouble. They fitted these vague lines to the Punic Wars, the American Revolution, even building Mount Rushmore. It proved the meaning comes from the reader's interpretation, not the prophecy itself.
It's all projection.
And this kind of thinking, especially apocalyptic thinking, isn't ancient history. Think about Y2K.
Oh, yeah, the planes falling out of the sky, the grid collapsing.
Exactly. Serious predictions of total societal breakdown because computers might not handle the date change.
And people reacted. I remember hearing about Survival Farm.
Totally. Entrepreneurs were selling total self-sufficiency survival compounds out in Arizona, like heritage farms. People genuinely prepared for the end of civilization as we knew it.
It shows how fear can drive really irrational behavior, almost fulfilling the prophecy by acting as if it's already happening.
It does. And this leads to a really interesting observation about how even smart people think. This idea of pockets of irrationality.
Pockets of irrationality, meaning what?
Meaning that even highly intelligent people, experts in their field, can hold on to beliefs that aren't supported by evidence, especially if those beliefs are core to their identity or worldview.
Like the example in the sources about psychoanalysts.
Right. They'd apparently applaud the rigorous debunking of, say, parapsychology, calling it pseudoscience.
Okay.
But then, if you criticize their field, psychoanalysis, using similar skeptical arguments, suddenly they'd get defensive and reject the criticism.
So skepticism for V, but not for me.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It just highlights how hard it is for anyone to apply the same critical lens to their own deeply held beliefs that they apply to others.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Fictional sandwiches starting wars, statistically necessary miracles, debunked dowsers, psychological epidemics. What's the big takeaway here?
I think the synthesis is pretty clear. History, belief. They're often shaped less by verifiable facts and more by really compelling, easy-to-repeat stories.
Whether it's impossible numbers in a war story or a selective pattern of presidential deaths or just the psychological pick of a vague prophecy.
Exactly. Our brains seem hardwired to struggle with distinguishing coincidence from actual causation. We prefer the dramatic, meaningful explanation over, messy reality or just plain old chance.
We look for the story.
We look for the story. We discard the boring context that might just explain it all away as mundane.
And this desire for wonder, for meaning, it's so strong that even when we know the simple physics behind something like firewalking.
Right, even when it's fully explained.
The pseudoscientific idea, the claim that you need a special state of mind, it just persists.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
History shows that even when prophecies are proven wrong or beliefs are debunked, the conviction of the believers often just gets stronger. So the question is, why? Why do we seem to have this deep human appetite for the wondrous, the seemingly miraculous?
Even when statistics or simple physics offer a perfectly good, if maybe less exciting, explanation.
Exactly. What does that fundamental choice, that preference for wonder over mundane fact, really say about what we value most in our beliefs?